Welcome to 519 Connect, where the Windsor Police Service connects with members of our community. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Welcome to 519 Connect. I'm your host, Constable Jamie Adjetey-Nelson, Diversity Officer for the Windsor Police Service. And today's episode, I'm going to call it Information Technology, IT, I'm it. So today we have Kevin Cosgrove, a civilian in Windsor, and a little bit about Kevin. Kevin has worked as a community advocate for almost 20 years, helping others through involvement with the Windsor Police, community speaking, and classes focusing mainly on fraud prevention and online safety. Through his position in the IT field, he's noticed a continuing increase in people getting scammed online. In realizing that much of this could be prevented, Kevin got more involved with the community, bringing awareness regarding digital safety. This involvement led to developing classes for seniors through Canterbury College that are designed to protect some of the most vulnerable people in our community. The classes have been presented for several years and have been considered a success each semester. In 2021, most of the information from the class was consolidated into a publication that the community leaders helped fund. Thousands of copies were given out in the community for free. The book was well received in Windsor and Essex, as it was written so that anyone could understand that sometimes the digital world can be confusing. So Kevin, thank you for being on today.
Glad to be here. It's definitely a big topic that's getting a lot of interest lately. I'm not sure why it's suddenly picked up after doing it for several years. And, maybe people are just COVID tired of hearing it in the news and want to focus on something else, or it's just it is addressing that big need where people are getting scammed more often, and it's definitely come to light.
Well, you speak of COVID, and the last few years, everything has moved online.
Absolutely. It's been a big change because even during COVID, what we've ended up with is parents or employees, workers, kids, students, everybody's doing all this stuff from home. So they don't have that same IT support they would, while they're at school or while they're in their workplace. So a lot of this stuff, people are kind of, fudging their way through and trying to figure all this out, and they definitely are intimidated about a lot of it.
Yeah, and that intimidation comes from sometimes getting comfortable and, that moment where you get scammed.
Absolutely.
You could be the most comfortable with the internet and what's going on there. You could be the least comfortable, but you can still fall into some of those the situations where you're being frauded for something.
And that part of that information is exactly what people kind of need to know. It's the people getting scammed and the stuff happening online. It's a great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're an IT guy or someone's grandmother or you're working at a company in an IT department. People are getting hacked regardless of even some of the stuff that I put in place. You want to have a certain level of safety. But, just like locking your door at night is a reasonable degree of safety, there are situations that someone just takes your door. So people need to understand that, you can still get hacked, but doing reasonable stuff prevents those crimes of convenience, as it's called in police world. Stuff that can just stop the average guy is most of the time going to be good enough for the average person.
Yeah, that is so true. And today's episode, we're not here to make people feel uncomfortable. We're
No, the exact opposite.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some things, and we're not gonna get above people's head because I'm not the greatest at it, but I also have those different feelings towards technology. But we're just here to inform and show some of the things we're doing in the community. And speaking of that, there is the publication that I mentioned in introducing you, Digital Safety for the Non-Tech Savvy. Yes. So how did that come about?
It's like I said, for years, the classes that we've done with Elder College, there was always handouts and stuff, and the stuff that always clicked with the senior population doing it. We also noticed a connection there with just reaching out to the rest of the community, because it wasn't that it was written to talk down to elderly people. It was written to be understandable, not a bunch of techno babble or whatever else. And because the information was accessible and kind of making that light bulb go off for a lot of people, we took all that and kind of put it together. And once industry or once the community people started seeing that this really does have a big effect, and it's made in a presentable way, yeah, everybody from yourselves with Windsor Police, the Mayor's Office, WFCU is a major sponsor of this as well, because they can see that this can actually make a big difference. There's lots of help stuff online, and there's videos, and there's all that kind of stuff, but if that was already accessible to everybody, then everybody would know this stuff already. So we really focused on making something a little bit different, and obviously we pulled it off because everybody loves it, which is very humbling for me, because I've been doing the same message year after year. So this suddenly getting that traction that it did is phenomenal. That's exactly what we wanted, is to get the message out to more people. Hitting 30 or so people or doing a lecture here and there, it's just not getting enough people to, even for Windsor, Essex, we're dealing with 400,000 people. Doing 30, 40 people at a time is just not getting this out quick enough.
Yeah, the importance of using technology to get the message out is important, even though it's a place that can create some fear for people. There's nothing like going online and pressing that help button, and it sends you from one place to another.
You just
and
get in a loop.
yeah, you're dealing with credit cards versus your bank, and consolidating it, having it in one area. That is the start of getting that anxiety. It's like, oh, I don't have to look in 80 different places.
Yeah, well, it is kind of funny. I have been a technician for a while. I'm actually a certified technician, but I do less tech work lately as the years keep going. Of course, as we get older, you kind of shift some of the work off to younger people. But aside from that, it's more dealing with the people themselves. So honestly, I'm less tech work lately and more of a computer counselor for relationships with their owners.
There it is.
Yeah.
You might have your own Netflix special, because
Yeah.
it's all about those relationships. And
It is. I sit them both down together, and we get them to talk it out. Realize it's not as intimidating as it needs to be, and I kind of equate that to a lot of people that there's always a funny thing that any computer place or any computer service place, they always see the same thing. People will walk in, and the first thing they say is, I'm not very tech savvy. And of course, on the other side of the desk, we're kind of finding that a little curious, because you don't do that when you go to the doctor. I'm not very medical savvy, or same thing, you go to a garage. It's like, I'm not a mechanic, but there's that anxiety that people seem to have, that they don't know enough about this stuff. And we see that being expressed every day when we're dealing with people. That need to state that, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing, but here's the computer to work on. And any other kind of service industry, you don't have that kind of introduction when the person comes in with a problem. So obviously people are looking at this stuff different. They get really intimidated with this stuff. And, somebody who drives their car every single day for the past 30 years, and you ask them, how do you change the compression ratio on your car? And it's like, I don't know.
it ain't happening.
But they don't care that they don't know that information. When it comes to computer stuff, people are over focused on what they don't know and really get anxious about it and think that they're behind everybody else, or that this is all too dangerous or too big to know about. And a lot of it really isn't. And, some of the classes, lectures, the book, it addresses that and kind of brings it down to a level where people, just have a better understanding. And that's probably why it's had the success it's had.
Yeah, you talk about people in their vehicles and their cars. Mm-hmm. They hear a noise, the engine light comes on. They don't freak out. They ask questions.
Yes.
And I think that's what will get rid of some of that anxiety, or that digital anxiety you have, is asking questions. I always say there is no stupid question, if it's looking to support you. The answer you might get, you might not like it, but it's there to release some of that anxiety you have. Information is power, and you don't have to know the nuts and bolts, but how it's going to affect you and how it can help you.
Just the basic information to be functional in what you're doing is usually enough in any other topic. The anxiety, that is a major part with adults and with seniors. And the funny thing is that people have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to this stuff. One of the biggest ones is, about how the kid down the street always knows more than you and all that kind of stuff. The only thing he's good at is he can look up stuff on Google. He's really good at that. He doesn't know more than you, but he will click menus, he'll click things and see what they do and everything else. So we have more parents that come to us with a broken computer that their kid has messed up with that overconfidence than we do with somebody bringing in their elderly parents' computer that they messed up because they're afraid of actually clicking anything at all. So we got to kind of bridge that gap and find a center point somewhere in there.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone heard that, but that's exciting. We're at our training branch right now where we're filming, and I believe our bomb unit is out there doing some training. So I love how you should be a police officer. You were calm and cool when you had that, and that's how you want people to feel with technology. And fraud has evolved. Before it was that person coming to your door and you having to write it down to give it to them. The gift of gab and things like that, and it's moved. Can you talk about some of that evolution, how it's gone from a guy with a sheet of paper asking you for all your information to now it's digitally in front of you?
Well, the same metrics that are being used by Google or Facebook or any other online company, they're seeing this as a fast, cheap, easy way to reach the most people. So for me to put out an ad and spend a certain amount of money, I can do that with a couple billboards, or I can do it with 50,000 people all at once, just with a simple Facebook ad that cost me $5. It's making everything more accessible for businesses to reach their customers, and that same metric is what's at play with scammers reaching their customers. A lot of the scams that go out in emails, the stats show there's like 1 million emails that go out for every one they might get a response on. So if that industry is making billions every year, that's got to tell you how many emails are going out. And same thing with the fraud phone calls and everything else. There's only a small percentage of people that will actually talk to them. There are a lot of people who just hang up, whether they're a little more tech savvy or they just don't want to talk to somebody calling them. Not everybody actually answers those calls, and still that industry is able to make billions worldwide every year. So that tells you something about the amount of numbers that must be going out to get that kind of response back. So it's an overflood of it. They'll just send out thousands of emails or put a robo-dialer on the phone, and it'll just dial and dial and dial. And when they get somebody that says press 1 to speak to an operator, then they'll actually jump in. But they'll go through hundreds, if not thousands of calls before that even happens. So it's just efficiency is what it's given it, broader reach.
Yeah, and I feel like it cycles around. It's different. It's phone calls. It's emails. Yes. There's no one way to do it. And a lot of times when I deal with people in these situations, they feel like they're individually being targeted by someone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Someone's coming to their house.
It can happen locally. Of course, we all know anecdotes and stories or cases of stuff that is local, where talking with Officer Briscoe with Crime Stoppers, there was one of the stories that she had told me about a local resident. They received a phone call that it's from immigrations, and they have to come down right away and deal with it. She didn't actually leave the house to go deal with it. And within 20 minutes of the phone call, we got people walking around the house, knocking on the back door to see if anybody's home. So stuff can get down to a local level. Most of the stuff that we encounter, though, is just sheer mass volume from overseas, or it does also come from Canada and the U.S. as well. But, of course, everybody kind of mentally associates a lot of these scams with call centers in India, but that's definitely not the...
Oh no, it's everywhere. Everyone's really getting involved in this. This. I don't want to call it an art, but an art of scamming people.
It is.
Hi, my name is Ed Armstrong. I'm the Inspector of Professional Advancement with the Windsor Police Service. With this position, I oversee our training branch, community services, as well as recruitment. As you know, Windsor is one of the most diverse communities in Canada. With that being said, our goal is to ensure that our police service represents our community. If you know anyone from your community that believes in our core values and will be an asset to our organization and serve the community with honor and service, the Windsor Police Service is currently accepting applications for the position of cadet. We encourage you to have them apply. Although patrol and ensuring the safety of our community is our #1 priority, the Windsor Police Service offers different departments that may interest you. To name a few, our Major Crimes Branch, our Forensic Identification Unit, Emergency Services Unit, and our Marine Unit. Which one interests you? So you want to know how to become a cadet? Simply visit our website at windsorpolice.ca under the Career tab, or visit oacpcertificate.ca. I'm sitting at my desk waiting to see your application.
You don't want to make people feel bad because they think it's just them, and they feel like, like we talk about those anxieties, and sometimes it affects people's mental health. Yes. Where they feel less of a person, they feel stupid, and it's affecting their family life. What are some tips, just right off the get-go to kind of get that, I always say that alert going on in someone's head, say from a phone call, because we do a lot of phone calls all the time. Right. People giving information, giving money. What are some things from a phone call? You mentioned some already. You pick up the phone and it says press 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Microsoft calling, or we notice your Google listing isn't high enough. There's all kinds of scams, and they change the story all the time, but the mechanics behind it are always the same. We're going back, and people kind of joke about the Nigerian prince scam. That was actually a real scam from quite a long time ago, and the mechanics of it is still mechanics that's used now. They just changed the story behind it. But whether it's Canada Revenue calling, or it's they say it's law enforcement or immigration, or it's Microsoft, or Norton or McAfee because your computer's infected, the first thing a lot of people need to realize is these companies don't call you at home.
Nope.
They don't do that at all. And if it's something where people feel it's possible that this might be a real call, they might actively be doing something with immigrations. All of a sudden they get a call from a scammer saying they're immigrations. The 2 and 2 together can kind of lead into people getting scammed. Regardless of who they say they are, whether it's the police or the government or Canada Revenue or immigrations or Microsoft, or even just your bank, they're calling to say there's something wrong with your credit card. And of course, when it's a scammer, they're asking you for your card number. But that's kind of the thing that people need to be aware of. If there's even a possibility the call is real, hang up, call them yourself on a phone number you have on the back of your credit card, or a phone number that's listed somewhere that you can rely on, and say, hey, I just got this call. Is there actually a problem with my account? It's that easy. Even if it's the police calling, and you say, I'll call you back. There isn't an officer I've ever met that would be upset at somebody saying that. And same thing with the banks or credit cards. They're not going to get mad at you for you being suspicious and being a little cautious and hanging up and calling them back on a number you already have. Anybody who's legitimate is not going to be mad about that. Without a doubt, the scammers will start getting a little aggressive when you start doing that kind of stuff, and that's also a key red flag right there. Is that if it's actually your bank calling, or they're not going to start bashing you on the phone.
Yeah,
it's not really part of their customer service model. So you do have to realize that certain things and certain key behaviors, it's probably not your actual bank calling, and you can weed that stuff out pretty well. But knowing that these people aren't going to call you is definitely one of the messages we try to get out, because a lot of people don't know. They don't know that Canada Revenue might not call you, or immigration might not, especially with new Canadians. They get intimidated over here. They're not sure. They didn't grow up in our legal system or social system. They're not familiar with all the different ways that stuff like this should happen. So getting a call from immigration saying you have to pay fines with a PayPal card, or
Google money, Apple money, Sephora cards.
That's right. So they could be intimidated into that just as easily as anybody else. And so just the information that these people wouldn't call you in the first place definitely needs to get out. But regardless of who it is, or there might be a suspicion there is a real problem with your credit card, call them. Give them a call back and check into your account. That's the easiest way to kind of provide that safety net for yourself, that you're actually dealing with the real people instead of somebody just saying that they're from your bank.
Yeah, so there it is. You're not going to get a phone call from Canada Revenue, Immigration, even the police.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Call them back. Another thing is they're really good at what they do. These scammers, they're gonna. The longer they keep you on the line, the more they're getting you. Bullcrap baffles brains.
That's right.
That's what. So they just keep feeding you more and more information that you might not understand. But it usually gets to a point where they want you to pay them for their services. Yes. I'll tell you this, people. We police officers do not want your money to get out of any crime. Okay, hang up, call us. We don't want your money. Immigration doesn't want your Sephora cards or your Google money. That's not what they want. I think people forget that mail is still one of the ways that everyone contacts us,
especially the government. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be mail. The police, we're going to show up to your house if there's a warrant for your arrest. It's always that one.
Kind of, I even mentioned that in the classes and even the book. It is kind of a funny aspect of some of their threats and things that intimidate people. Is calling ahead of time to warn you of an impending arrest unless you pay a fine. Well, I can't imagine any law enforcement being really effective telling the criminals that we're on our way.
Yeah.
And it would kind of diffuse things a little bit.
It would. And I see that, like we talk about newcomers, they might come from a place where, things are handled like that.
Possible. Yeah,
that might be possible. And, that's part of our community engagement as police officers or community service is letting them know we are not about that.
That's right.
We are a service. We are taking care of, and we are here to take care of you. At no point do we want any money for you. And, it's battling that adage of what people are seeing on TV, what they're bringing from home. And I think your book brings that into play.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you're looking to expand on this book? Like, it's been very well received in Windsor and Essex. Where else has this spanned out to, and what do you think it can do?
I am just blown away at some of the places I've heard back from or gotten an email about. I actually seen a mention in a blog in Australia about it. There was a university in Vancouver that emailed me about getting some copies. So it's definitely getting a wide reception. As far as our next move, we made some of the information, or not some, most of the information, not just accessible, but almost timeless, which is a really hard thing to do with technology stuff. So we'll, just for an example, we'll get into details about how to manage your passwords and stuff in your Google account and stuff like that. But if we got down to those specifics of click here, go to this menu, do this, within 24 hours it's been updated and every menu's been changed. But it's that old, give a person a fish kind of mentality. If I went into those kind of specifics, it would already be outdated within a month or 2 months of most of the information. But we go with the concepts and teach people what they can look for, what they should be able to see in some of this stuff, and even a little bit of confidence to go and find it. That confidence thing is definitely something I address. Again, every talk and every class that I teach, one of the big things that we, it's that broken record thing. We'll talk about, if there's a problem with your bank card and you don't know what the PIN is, well, it's not a big panic situation. You'll go to the bank and take care of it. But when you kind of dissect that scenario, you don't know who you're going to speak to. You don't know which till you're going to sit at, or what computer they're going to use or software they're going to use to fix your PIN. But at the same time, if I told someone go change the password on their Google, they'd look at you like you just shot them. So that anxiety is definitely a major part of the problem. And it's something that we try to address with how that book is written to kind of make that information accessible, but non-specific and outdated within just a little while.
Yeah, that's it. Timeless is key, because I think you said it earlier. The the different stories they tell you to get your money. It's the same stories told in a different way, but they're looking for the same data.
It is.
Your
It
name,
is the same.
your social insurance, the last 3 digits of your credit card on the back of your car. Just all that. They're looking for the same things, but they're going to tell you this HBO level story that's so believable to you.
They are good at what they do.
Yeah, the stories are unreal, and it's hard to tell someone not to feel ashamed about it. It's that counseling aspect, and we spoke about it before.
Absolutely.
The victim or your parents or things like that. It's you have to, once it happens, it's happened, and how you deal with it after can really affect how they move forward in technology and in life and with their family. So where do we go? How do we approach? You've taught these classes. What are some of the things you say to them, and even the students you teach?
It's definitely like I mentioned even at the beginning today. It's an equalizer. It doesn't matter what level of computer use you have or what your age is, or even if you work in IT, you can still get hacked. And knowing that, I think lets people feel a little more comfortable and provides an assurance that as a victim, literally like other crimes, it's not their fault. These guys are good at what they do. They study metrics just as much as Google does. You think that the overall crime industry with scams and online scams and Bitcoin fraud, this is billions. Mm-hmm. So if you think of any corporation that's going to make billions, they put a lot of research and time and effort and training and studying statistics. The criminals are looking at this stuff just as much. We've had internet in the home for 20 years now. There's a lot of data to be gathered on how people behave, and the scammers will use that. And letting people know that you're up against somebody who's professional, that can get other professional people scammed. It's not just you. It's not your fault you're not stupid. You're not, too old to learn this stuff. It's definitely something where people need that psychological aspect of it as well, because, after you get some of your social media accounts hacked or bank accounts hacked, there's that same anxiety that people feel after that kind of crime that people feel when their house is broken into. So there is definitely a bigger psychological factor in this that I'm trying to start getting addressed in the community as well. And we'll work on that part just as well as giving the technical side of it. But definitely letting people know that this isn't their fault is a really big, important message to get all this taken care of.
Yeah, you talk about it, and I can see you collaborating so many different organizations within our city, whether it's newcomers to mental health and talking on those issues, and, even gaining some insight on, where to go after something happens, because that's where we see a lot of the stress happen with people. Where do they go? Sometimes, in our profession, people wait days, because whether it's embarrassment or whatever, or they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And at all levels, like you said, it's a $1 billion organization. That's why training happens at all levels. We still, as a police service, get training on, emails and those things, because even we can be hacked.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no one that's off limits to these guys. And it is unfortunate, and, I don't want to add to, people throwing on a tinfoil hat or anything, but, even people that are at a high level of IT or working within a company in the IT department, companies can get hacked too. So it's definitely, that message isn't to be more paranoid. It's more about making people feel that they're not to blame.
Yes.
Somebody who is even good at this stuff can still get hacked as well. But again, like a lot of messages and public service messages and stuff with the police and the community is getting this stuff out of the way, that's those crimes of convenience. If you can stop those, you can stop most of the stuff. The guy who just took down Sony and another computer company, NVIDIA, just a couple weeks ago, you're not going to stop him. But you're going to stop a lot of other people who are just trying to get your Facebook account or get your email or get those kind of things. So putting that kind of diligence in that isn't difficult and not anxiety-inducing, those are the important things to at least do.
Yeah, it's important. I always tell people you can cease communication because they're just looking to pull you in and keep you talking, keep you talking. I always tell you can stop your social media for a little bit,
Yeah.
gather your thoughts, and always call. I always say call the police.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call us. Whether we're going to help you over the phone or in person, let us relieve some of that anxiety when it comes to technology. And we're not all the most tech savvy, but when we have partnerships like this, where we can draw on that information. Like I saw this publication before we even got you on the show, and I said, this is great because it's assisting me. It's always where can we send people to get that support, build that confidence. And I think that's where in anything where we're an organization, police, you as yourself, is providing information to empower people to feel like they can walk in their own shoes, because technology is here. It is not going anywhere.
That's right.
But it's not to be afraid of. It's set up to help us.
It can, and the anxiety level, that big thing that you guys take care of, that the other organizations I work with take care of, that anxiety about just your day-to-day life, whether it's feeling safe walking to the park or trying to do your online banking. You want to feel that our citizens are actually at a comfort level and not hiding in the basement all the time. So, yeah, it's definitely a focus of just about every organization that we work with together on, and it is a big part of it. But letting people just take a deep breath once in a while with this stuff, it's not as intimidating as they feel it is, and it's usually what is better after a talk or a class, or even sitting down one-on-one with somebody who was a victim to some of this stuff, is at least getting them to feel a little bit better about it, that this isn't their fault. And I know that's a repeating message, especially with police or victim services. There's a lot of crimes where the people who do it are focused on doing the crime, and unless you're spending your days keeping up on this stuff and doing a 40-hour week at learning how to defend against it, you're up against somebody who is spending a 40-hour week learning how to scam you. So the big message of it's not your fault is a universal message with a lot of this stuff.
It's not your fault, and there is help.
Yes.
Those are two big messages.
Yeah. But you actually, you kind of topped on something. People aren't sure that, there is even the right kind of help or whatever else, but that embarrassment level. In talking with the Anti-Fraud Center, for example, like with romance scams online, there's only a 1% reporting on that even happening. Because people are just embarrassed that they got scammed, or maybe what they were saying back and forth online to somebody is kind of a little private or whatever else. And so a lot of these scams don't even get reported in the first place. They're either embarrassed or especially with elderly, and that's another problem. You have elderly people, and they end up getting scammed. They won't tell anybody because they're afraid their adult children will take away some of their rights or take away their bank accounts, stuff like that they're not mentally capable anymore. So there's family dynamics involved, and whether it's trying to tell your wife you just got scammed for $15,000 in Bitcoin, or trying to tell your adult children about that, or even what we even see is with young adults, their first time out in their own apartment, or they're away for school, and they can get intimidated by law enforcement fraud, or somebody claiming their government. They're just as likely as a senior to get scammed. So they don't want to tell their parents that they just lost that kind of money or whatever else. So there is a lot of embarrassment or worry about the fallout or anything else that prevents a lot of this stuff getting reported, as well as them not knowing if there's even help out there afterwards.
Yeah, you talk about families and children growing off and things and becoming their own person. You talk to your kids about safety, talk to them about financial literacy. Mm-hmm. I think this book, Digital Safety for the Non-Tech Savvy, should be a table talk with your children.
Absolutely.
Right? Growing up, navigating. This is something that it's going to be a part of your life. And so how do we get, people get this book? Like, well, where is it going to be, or how can they advocate for them to have it in their organizations?
Well, right now we're just kind of getting at the tail end of that last release with all the funds that was provided by everybody in the community, and it was phenomenal. Like, we even had this out in the libraries to be given out to the public. So we're kind of running down on copies. There still is some available. I wouldn't say we're out of it. The police have some. Elder College with Canterbury and the University of Windsor, they still have some. And I believe there's a small supply still available at PC Outfitters. But we are definitely looking at having a reprint again because of the success in the community. And one of the things we're definitely going to focus on is different languages for new Canadians. So we're going to get into translations for different languages, and we're even looking at having this in Braille because sight impaired people don't think about it, but this technology and being connected and using assistive devices, that's part of their day-to-day life. So this message getting to even sight-impaired people is really, really important. So we're focusing on, of course, as a nonprofit, we're focusing on getting funds again to have a bigger release of this to reach even more people.
All right. So how do they reach out to you or the organizations doing this? And I think it's important, like you talk about funding, and I think this is something we need. There's people out there who are going to hear this and be like, we need more of this, and they have connections because we talk about collaborating and, through meetings like this or in the community, how, things like this skyrocketed because there was a few organizations that came together. How can, organizations that deal with, languages, Braille, how do they reach out to you?
Right now, either between, I would say, Windsor Police and with Elder College with Canterbury, reaching out to them and the either community service and requesting more information about stuff like this or what's possible next time, or if we even are available to go out and do a talk with somebody, or same thing with the university, if we can reach out to them, we can see about getting more copies out to the community. So I would directly contact Canterbury or with Windsor Police. So that's definitely going to be the two areas I would probably recommend. I wear a lot of different hats with different organizations, so trying to get to me directly it is kind of hard to do sometimes, other than giving out my personal information.
Oh yeah, don't worry. You can take care of you at Windsor Police. Reach out to our Windsor Police, our info. Go on our website and see if you're an organization looking how to support this project, because we talk about different languages, we talk about how can this be more inclusive to our community. This information impacts so many, so you can reach out to the Windsor Police Service, and working with you, Kevin, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. You really put a lot of insight into how digital safety is important and how to get less digital anxiety. I feel like you need to coin that term, digital anxiety.
I might copyright it.
Right.
We'll look at that. Actually, something for yourselves with Windsor Police supporting the community and getting this out. It's even on your front page at the Windsor Police website. So right from the front page, there's a link to the book, and it's accessible right from there as a digital copy, of course.
There you go, on our Windsor Police website. It's there to start, to learn, to support. Thank you for coming on. This is 519 Connect, another great episode. You can find us on most of your major platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and check us out on our Windsor Police YouTube page. Thank you, 519 Connect.